Many thanks to my awesome patrons and fine tool partners. If you're looking for some free stuff and want some early access, consider becoming a patron today. Before we start, I want to say Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and thank God 2020's gone. Alright, so for this Merry Christmas episode, I wanted to do a special project that a repeat client actually wanted to have done for her Christmas tree. And she had an incident with her tree skirt. Embarrassing to say, she did. But she wanted a replacement. And without using a tree skirt, she wanted a display box or a crate to go around the base of her tree that she could later decorate up, maybe with lights or fake snow, for added dramatic effect for her tree and eliminate the use for the tree skirt altogether. So I thought it would be a good video to show you guys. If this is your first time here, I would like to welcome you. Don't forget, click that subscribe button if you like videos like this, and don't forget to hit that subscription bell and it will notify you anytime that I upload brand new content. So let's get started. So I'm first going to start by taking all this scrap alder and cutting it down to 2 inches wide, and then cut them to length after I get it done. I have no idea if this is going to be enough, but I've got some alder right here for a barn door build that I'm doing, and I got some excess in it, so I might be able to squeeze a little out if I need to. Just going to drop in a multi-purpose blade. And if you guys are interested in where I get my saw blades and my sharpening all in one stop, you can go to sawbladesharpening.com. They are one of my tool supporters, and they have a wonderful sharpening service, and they also will sharpen Freud blades because that requires a certification in order to do such a thing. So check them out. I'll leave a link down below. So now I just need to cut the uprights as much as I can get with what I have. Then I'll cut the rails. All right, now even though this box is square on the inside, the outside is going to differ slightly because the 2 panels on either side are going to overlap these 2 panels. So the rails on the front and the back are going to be one size, and the rails on the sides will be another size. So I need to cut 4 rails for the front and back, and then 4 for the sides. So because these all came from scrap, luckily I had enough, by the way, just barely. I was left with about this much. But because they all came from different pieces and I haven't milled up all of those pieces completely, I'm going to run them through my planer, get them down to 3/4 of an inch or as close to as possible, and then send them through my drum sander to get them nice and sanded down. Now if you don't have a drum sander like mine, no big deal. Just pre-sand these with a random orbit sander before you start doing any kind of joinery or assembly. So one thing that I didn't have enough of was 1/2 inch plywood for the panels and the bottom. I've got enough to do the center panels, but the bottom I'm going to have to laminate 2 pieces of 1/4 inch plywood just to make that up. So that's what I'm going to do. So I just got done cutting the panels to length, now I got to cut them to width. Okay, so now I just need to change out my current blade for the dado stack because we need to start cutting some joinery. For those of you that are curious, I am using the Freud SD608 dial-a-width dado. It's a lot easier to use than a shim system because this one is completely shimless. It uses a micro adjusting hub that can give you a 0.004 micro adjustability with every click. If you guys want to see a how-to on how to use this particular blade setup, let me know down in the comments below. Now I'm just going to raise it up 1/4 of an inch high, and then I'll run a test cut to make sure I'm good. So this is how accurate that dado stack is. It told me the number of clicks to get a 1/4 inch wide dado. This is a 1/4 inch machined piece of brass for a setup gauge that I use on my table saw, and it fits like a glove. And I set it at just the right height too. So I'm going to put 4 pieces with the dado running down the length of the board, then the other 4 will get a tongue to accept that dado. Okay, there we go. That is the remainder 4. So now I have 4 corners to the box and everything fits perfect. Now to do some assembly. The rails are going to attach to the stiles using your choice of how you want to join them, whether it be pocket screws, dowels, dominoes, or biscuits. Just make sure that they are narrow enough to fit the width that you used. Now with all of the mortises for the dominoes cut, I just need to assemble all 4 sides, but I'm not going to join them together with the tongue and grooves just yet. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, the stiles that have the groove need to be in conjunction with the long rails. The short rails will go on the other stiles. Now, on the wider pieces of the crate, there is a 45-degree so-called cross member that will go from corner to corner, much like I make my barn doors. So I'm going to cut a 1/4-inch piece of plywood 2 inches wide, which will match the width of the rails and stiles. And then whenever that 1/2-inch panel goes in place, the 1/4-inch is all that's left. So that's why I'm using this. So these cross members are actually going to have 2 angles cut on them. And the way I go about making that very simply is I find the center of this piece, which is 1 inch, of course, and then I set it up underneath, just like that. And then I line those center marks up with the inside corner of the frame, and then just scribe the lines and then cut the angles. So now that those angles are cut, turn it back over and slip it right inside like that. Perfect. Now, in order to accept the 1/2-inch thick panels on the inside, I need to rabbet the backside of these frames, and I'm going to use a 3/8 inch by 1/2 deep router bit for that, or rabbeting bit. All right, we're almost there. One of the things that we had to do on the router table was run a groove all along one edge so it can accept the bottom. Now the bottom has come out of the clamps, and we just need to kind of dado it a little bit so it'll fit inside this without a problem. Now the other pieces that have the groove running down the side, I cannot run those through the router all the way because it will show on one end. So I did a stop dado where it just came in contact with that groove, and then we were good. Now, one last thing I'm going to do is put the cross member in place with some glue. All right, I decided to change something up, and that is the bottom that goes in the box itself, or the crate. If you remember, we did the 1/4-inch plywood laminated together to make 1/2-inch thick. Well, I didn't quite like how it laminated together. Wasn't quite straight, still a little flimsy. You could still use 1/2-inch plywood, but I wouldn't recommend the 2 laminations together. I only did that because I didn't have enough 1/2-inch plywood. And because of that, and I don't like it, I'm gonna go ahead and put 3/4-inch plywood in the bottom of this crate and just cut it to size. I'll just enlarge the dado all the way around, or the groove that it sits in, and then I should be good. Okay, so I went ahead and rabbeted the underside just under 1/4 inch deep. So now it will sit inside that groove and just be shy of the very, very bottom of the box. So this thing will sit nice and flat and have a nice sturdy base. Okay, so much like all my projects, before I put it all together and glue it up, I'm going to pre-sand all of the pieces because it's a lot easier to do it now than when it's all together. So once the assembly was done, I threw on a light coat of dark walnut varathane stain and a couple of coats of tung oil. I decided to go with tung oil because I had a feeling that over time the lacquer finish may scratch due to the tree stand being maneuvered around in there. So that's what I decided to go with, and I think it will hold up nicely. If you guys have any comments, tips, or suggestions that you want to leave about this project or this video, be sure and drop them down below. Click that subscription button and the notification bell. And many thanks to my patrons above, tool supporters down below, and I will talk to you guys on the next episode. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, see you in 2021. Boom!